Welcome to Living Through Streamers, when their success feels like yours. Today we're exploring the psychological phenomenon of parasocial relationships in the streaming world. With the rise of platforms like Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook gaming, millions of people now spend hours each day watching streamers play games, create content, and share their lives. But for many viewers, this goes beyond simple entertainment. They develop deep emotional connections with these online personalities. We'll examine why these connections form, how they affect our psychology, and most importantly, how to maintain a healthy relationship with the content we consume. This presentation will cover the science behind parasocial relationships, the business models that exploit them, and practical strategies for finding balance in a digital world that's designed to keep us engaged. Let's start with the phenomenon itself. Vicarious living is when we experience another person's achievements as if they were our own. When you watch a streamer hit a milestone or win a game, you might feel a genuine rush of excitement. This is what we call digital intimacy, a sense of closeness that develops despite the physical distance. The viewer's high is real. Your brain releases dopamine when you watch someone succeed, similar to the neurological response you might have from your own accomplishments. But this creates an illusion of participation. You feel like you're part of the action, even though you're just watching. This phenomenon isn't entirely new. Sports fans have experienced vicarious living for decades. However, streaming creates a more intimate connection because streamers often share personal details, interact directly with chat, and present themselves as more accessible than traditional celebrities. The combination of real-time interaction and perceived accessibility makes these connections feel more genuine than traditional media consumption. The psychology behind this is fascinating. We're talking about parasocial relationships, a term coined by sociologist Donald Horton and R. Richard Wall in 1956 to describe one-sided relationships where one person extends emotional energy, interest, and time while the other party doesn't know they exist. In the streaming context, you might invest emotionally in a streamer's life, celebrate their wins, and mourn their losses. You might feel genuine concern when they're going through a difficult time. But this creates an illusion of friendship because streamers typically see viewers collectively rather than individually. The we mentality develops where you start thinking we won when really they won. This psychological phenomenon is similar to what happens with sports teams. Fans say we won even though they had no direct impact on the outcome. It's important to recognize that these feelings are real to you. Your brain processes parasocial connections similarly to reciprocal relationships, but the relationship is fundamentally one-sided. Understanding this distinction is crucial for maintaining emotional health. Now, let's flip the perspective. What does this look like from the streamer side? For them, the audience is often reduced to metrics, viewer counts, subscriber numbers, chat rates. While streamers may genuinely care about their community, the sheer scale makes individual connections impossible for most. Chat can become noise rather than individual voices, especially in larger streams where messages scroll by in seconds. There's often a performance aspect. They're presenting a persona, not their full personality. This isn't necessarily deceptive. It's a natural adaptation to being on camera for hours. Streamers develop, on-stream, versions of themselves, similar to how people act differently in professional settings versus private ones. This creates a vast intimacy gap between what viewers feel and what streamers experience. A viewer might feel they truly know a streamer after watching hundreds of hours of content, but the streamer has no way to distinguish that viewer from thousands of others. Understanding this gap is crucial for maintaining healthy boundaries and realistic expectations about these relationships. There's a significant generational divide in how people engage with streamers. Digital natives who grew up with the internet see streaming as a normal form of entertainment and connection. For many Gen Z viewers, watching streamers is their primary form of media consumption, surpassing traditional television and movies. Late adopters, typically older viewers, had a transition from traditional TV to streaming and may view it with skepticism or as inferior to real entertainment. This represents a social evolution. Parasocial relationships are becoming the new social norm. For many younger viewers, streamers have replaced traditional TV shows and celebrities. They're not just entertainment, they're perceived as friends. This shift has significant implications for how we form social connections. Where previous generations might have felt connected to characters on TV shows, today's viewers feel connected to real people who respond in real time. This evolution changes the nature of celebrity and community, creating more accessible but also more complex forms of attachment. Let's talk about the business side. Platforms and streamers monetize these parasocial connections in several sophisticated ways. Subscriptions create a sense of membership. You're not just watching, you're part of an exclusive club with special emotes and badges that signal your status. This taps into our fundamental need for belonging and status within a group. Donations by momentary access or recognition. Your message appears on screen, or the streamer says your name. This creates a brief moment of two-way interaction that reinforces the parasocial bond. And ad revenue is generated from your time and attention. The longer you watch, the more ads you see, and the more revenue is generated. Remember, you're often not the customer in this equation. You're the product being sold to advertisers. Understanding this business model helps us recognize the financial incentives behind creating and maintaining parasocial bonds. Streamers are incentivized to create content that keeps viewers engaged for as long as possible, which often means fostering emotional connections. This isn't necessarily malicious, but it's important to recognize that these relationships serve a business purpose beyond simply providing entertainment. The feedback loop is what makes these relationships feel real. Live chat provides immediate response, creating a sense of presence and participation that passive media consumption lacks. You can ask questions, make jokes, or offer support, and sometimes receive acknowledgement in real time. Donations and recognition create moments of direct interaction. Your name is said out loud. Your message is highlighted. You're temporarily visible to thousands of viewers. This creates a powerful dopamine hit that reinforces continued engagement. Subscriptions simulate membership in an exclusive community with special privileges and visual indicators of belonging. And seeing your name on screen provides validation. You exist, you matter, you're part of something. All these mechanisms create an illusion of two-way connection, even though the relationship remains primarily one-sided. It's designed to feel personal while being scalable to thousands of viewers. This scalability is key to the streaming business model. Streamers can make thousands of people feel individually valued without actually forming individual relationships. Understanding this feedback loop helps us recognize why these connections feel so compelling and why they can be difficult to moderate. Communities develop their own culture around streamers, which further strengthens parasocial bonds. Shared language through emotes and catchphrases creates in-group identity. When you type Kappa or PogChamp, you're signaling that you're part of the community. Inside jokes bond the community together. References to past streams, funny moments, or streamer quirks create a shared history that new viewers don't understand. This creates a sense of belonging and continuity. Belonging signals like sub-badges prove your loyalty and duration of commitment. A 5-year subscriber badge marks you as a veteran member of the community. And there's often an us versus them mentality when defending the community against critics or rival communities. This tribal culture strengthens the parasocial bond by making you feel part of something larger than yourself. The chat isn't just text. It becomes your social circle, your in-group, your tribe. This community aspect can provide genuine social support and connection, which is especially valuable for viewers who may be socially isolated in their physical lives. However, it can also create echo chambers and groupthink that reinforce unhealthy attitudes or behaviors. The comparison trap is one of the most damaging aspects of parasocial relationships with streamers. You're comparing your everyday life to their highlight reel. Streamers typically show their best moments, their successes, their exciting content. You don't see the hours of practice, the failed attempts, the mundane aspects of their lives. Success seems effortless when you don't see the years of work behind it. the small channel growth, the technical difficulties, the content that didn't resonate. You might start tying your self-worth to viewer counts or subscriber numbers, either the streamers, as a measure of your community's value, or your own if you create content. And the achievement gap between where you are and where there can feel increasingly insurmountable, especially when streamers present their success as more attainable than it actually is. This constant comparison can lead to feelings of inadequacy, depression, and anxiety. It can also create unrealistic expectations about what success looks like and how quickly it can be achieved. Recognizing that you're comparing your reality to their curated performance is the first step toward breaking this harmful pattern. When a streamer faces controversy or failure, it can feel like a personal betrayal to deeply invested viewers. This parasocial betrayal can be devastating because you've invested real emotional energy in this person. You might find yourself defending the indefensible because acknowledging their faults feels like admitting you were wrong about someone you trusted. This cognitive dissonance is powerful. It's easier to rationalize bad behavior than to accept that your emotional investment was misplaced. You might experience genuine grief for someone who didn't actually know you, mourning the loss of the relationship you thought you had. This grief is real and valid, even if the relationship wasn't reciprocal. And if your identity has merged with the community, their fall can trigger an identity crisis. Who are you without this connection? What do you believe if not what they taught you? This is especially true when streamers promote specific ideologies or worldviews. When these are discredited, viewers may need to rebuild their entire sense of self. Understanding that this emotional turmoil is a normal response to parasocial betrayal can help viewers process these feelings more healthily. These relationships are a double-edged sword, with both benefits and risks. On the positive side, streamers can provide inspiration by showing what's possible. Watching someone achieve their dreams can motivate you to pursue your own. They create communities where you can find belonging, especially valuable for those who feel isolated in their physical communities. Streamers can also provide education, introducing you to new ideas, skills, or perspectives you might not encounter otherwise. But the negatives are significant. Jealousy when comparing your life to theirs, especially when they seem to achieve success easily while you struggle. Financial drain as you fund their dreams through subscriptions and donations instead of investing in your own goals. An identity loss as you spend more time in their world than your own, gradually adopting their values, opinions, and personality traits. The key is recognizing both sides of this sword. The connections themselves aren't inherently harmful. They become problematic when they're unbalanced or when they replace real-world relationships and personal development. Understanding this balance is essential for maintaining psychological health while still enjoying the benefits of streaming content. The fear of missing out drives constant engagement with streaming content, creating a cycle that's difficult to break. With 24/7 availability, someone is always streaming. There's always content to watch, always something happening in your favorite communities. This constant availability makes it easy to justify excessive viewing. Algorithm pushes through notifications demand your attention. Your favorite streamer just went live. These alerts exploit our psychological need for novelty and connection. Live-only moments create pressure. You had to be there becomes a real concern when community in-jokes develop from spontaneous moments that aren't captured in VODs. This fear of missing these moments keeps you watching even when you have other priorities. And digital anxiety makes disconnecting feel like social exclusion. If you're not watching, you're not part of the conversation, you're missing out on community bonding. This FOMO cycle keeps you constantly engaged, often at the expense of other aspects of your life: sleep, work, relationships, personal goals. Recognizing this cycle is the first step toward breaking it. Understanding that VODs exist, that missing a stream isn't the end of the world, and that your value isn't determined by your viewing history can help establish healthier viewing habits. Identity merging happens gradually, often without conscious awareness. You enter an echo chamber where you only hear one perspective, the streamer's. Algorithms and community dynamics reinforce this by showing you more of what you already like, limiting exposure to diverse viewpoints. You start adopting their opinions as your own, about games, about life, about politics. It feels natural because you trust them and value their judgment. You lose touch with your own values and beliefs. Maybe you used to enjoy different games, have different political views, or different hobbies. Over time, these fade as you align more closely with the streamer and community. And you constantly seek their validation through chat recognition, through donations, through social media interactions. This validation becomes increasingly important to your self-worth. Before long, you're speaking their language and thinking their thoughts, losing your own identity in the process. This is perhaps the most insidious aspect of parasocial relationships because it happens gradually and feels like personal growth rather than identity loss. Maintaining awareness of your own beliefs, values, and interests separate from those of the streamer is crucial for preventing this merging. Looking ahead, technology will deepen these connections in ways we're only beginning to understand. Virtual presence will let you sit next to streamers in VR, creating a more immersive and intimate viewing experience. This could make parasocial relationships feel even more real, as your brain processes the virtual proximity similarly to physical presence. AI companions could provide always-on, personalized interaction, chatbots that remember your preferences, respond to your specific comments, and adapt to your personality. This could create the illusion of a reciprocal relationship that's even more convincing than current parasocial connections. The metaverse promises persistent shared digital spaces where you and your favorite streamers can interact in virtual environments that feel more real than current text or video-based interactions. And all this will create deeper immersion, making it harder to distinguish reality from the parasocial. The line between audience and participant will blur further, potentially making it even more difficult to maintain healthy boundaries. Understanding these trends now helps us prepare for their psychological impact and develop strategies for maintaining our sense of self in increasingly immersive digital environments. Finally, let's talk about finding balance in a world designed to keep us engaged. Set boundaries around your screen time and engagement. Decide in advance how much time you'll spend watching streams and stick to it. Use tools like screen time limits or website blockers to enforce these boundaries. Invest in your own skills and goals rather than living through others. If you enjoy watching someone play a game, consider playing it yourself. If you admire their content creation skills, try creating content. Channel that inspiration into personal growth. Curate your feed to include content that adds value to your life, educational streams, diverse perspectives, content that challenges you rather than just entertaining you. And most importantly, don't absorb their identity. Maintain your own sense of self. Remember that you can appreciate someone's content without adopting their entire worldview. Maintain connections with people who know you in real life, who can provide perspective and accountability. Remember, you can enjoy the show without making it your entire life. Be the main character of your own story, not a supporting character in someone else's. The goal isn't to eliminate parasocial connections. They can provide genuine value, but to maintain them in a way that enhances rather than diminishes your real life and personal growth.